Welcome to ABC's Ask an Expert, where we get answers from industry experts to commonly asked questions from homeowners. Today, we're joined by Jay Zambo, ABC's Lawn and Tree Division Manager. Jay has over 20 years of experience in landscaping, and he oversees lawn maintenance and care, irrigation, landscaping, tree, and holiday lighting for all ABC Austin branches. Thank you so much for joining us, Jay.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Can you start off by telling us a little bit about what goes into a free landscaping consultation?
Free landscaping consultations first starts off with the homeowner or the customer having an idea of what they want. And then a phone call comes into the office and we assign the call to a designer based on their location. And then we go out and we identify exactly what their budget is, what their ideas are, and we go from there. If the bid or the design requires more than just a simple sketch and some ideas, and it requires a full-on design, then there would be a charge for it.
Gotcha. And then what do you typically ask a homeowner in a landscaping consultation?
Well, first and foremost, we want to know if they have an idea of what they're looking for. We also want to know a little bit about them. What's their interest? Do they have friends over? Do they have kids? Do they have pets? Do they want to spend time outside? What are the destinations that they would like to see in their yard? And ultimately, do they have a budget? A lot of times people will call and they're just really fishing for ideas rather than just having them themselves. So identifying up front if they have a budget makes us understand if they're serious buyers or just recreational fishers.
Gotcha. And then what does a typical low water usage landscape design project look like?
It really depends on what we're going after. A lot of some people would call it xeriscapes. I don't really like to use the term xeriscape because that implies that there's zero maintenance that's required. Typically, there's more maintenance required for xeriscape, but rocks and native plants, artificial turf, those are the kind of things that we would be looking for in a lower water usage landscape.
Gotcha. What types of plants are typically recommended for low water usage?
We're going to be looking for natives and well-adapted plants. Nurseries have been doing these growing plants for decades, sometimes longer than that. So they know what works, what's popular, and what's going to require the least amount of attention, but provide the best aesthetics to the landscape.
Do you use rock water features in your designs? And can you give us some examples of those?
We don't typically use water features in our designs unless it's specifically requested. Especially in an area like Southern Texas, where we have water restrictions coming into, typically the summer months. And as the population grows and water becomes more of a hot topic, and we try and shy away from things that would have, splash potential and evaporation. So water features are really more of a very unique and requested item. We did do a rain wall for a customer in College Station this past summer. We built it ourselves, which was kind of unique. Typically, we would just go out and buy one, but they wanted something really different. So that was one that we did, just rain wall. Bird baths are another easy one, but water features where we're actually pumping water, we try to avoid those right now.
Okay. And then how does this type of landscaping decrease outdoor watering costs?
Well, if we're going the push right now, and as most people should understand, with the population growth of Texas and the consumption of water, there's a balance that needs to be made. So we've got to be able to still make sure everyone has the water needs that they need. However, we need to be conscious of how we're watering outside. So we're trying to be more conscious of reducing the footprint of water usage by not using overhead spray, anything that would require above ground. There's potential for runoff, overspray onto sidewalks, and then you have evaporation. So there's a really big transition into more efficient drip irrigation, which is typically subsurface. It's or point to point. And what I mean by point to point is you have your water source, which is your valve, and then right to the plant itself. So we're putting water right at the base of the plant, right at the root zone. So we're not watering everything out of the blue just to get water down.
Gotcha. And then what can you do to help drainage problems and runoff in a homeowner's yard?
That's really a situational kind of question. It really depends on what the layout of the property is. Hopefully, the civil engineers who designed the house and the footprint have taken that into consideration. Although we do run into some challenges with settling over years of time, uh, things just happen, especially if you're on the east side of the 35, we have clay soils. So every year you get this shrinking and expansion of soils, which shifts. So you end up with having to do drainage projects. So typically what we would do is we'd identify elevation points and then try and find our low spots, see where we can move that water to. If we can't move the water physically from the surface through French drains or some type of tile drainage system, then what we would do is probably move to more of a sump or large gravel pit. So we dig this big hole in the ground, we fill it with either a concrete box or just gravel itself, put a sump pump into that space, so all of the excess water that gets collected can now be pumped into the storm drain system.
Gotcha. And then how long does a landscaping project typically take?
Again, it really depends on the size. A lot of what we do is a lot of what we encounter is more so enhancements. So there's two types of landscape projects. There's your enhancements, and then there's your full-on redesign and builds. So the enhancements usually take 3 to 5 days, sometimes less. Sometimes we're just in and out in a day. But a true landscape design and build project is probably going to take minimum a week and could take up to 3 months. Depends on how much earth we're moving around.
How can you use plants that are beneficial to the ecosystem while still cutting down on water usage?
Again, we're going to go right back to native use, native plants and locally sourced plant material. They're just well adapted to the environment. The plants understand the soil conditions, the environmental conditions. They don't really require a whole lot of attention. So those are definitely going to be our go-to plants. And again, the industry, we recognize what works and what doesn't. Every now and then you'll get a customer that really has their heart set on some stuff. We'll try it for them if they want, but we definitely want to make sure that they understand that this plant doesn't do well here. So despite how much we want it to do well here, the good Lord sometimes doesn't allow it.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Jay. That's it for today's Ask an Expert from ABC Home and Commercial Services. Thank you again for answering our questions about landscaping design.
Well, thanks for having me. Hope you all have a great day.
ABC Home and Commercial Services.